was amazing, Archana. That looks so delicious. And so
Thank
now
you.
what I thought is we'd walk you through the cuisine of India. So when you think about Indian cuisine, it is diverse. It varies based on the region, based on your religion, based on what's available, and also based on your family traditions. Even within the same city, same state, each family has their own version of a recipe. So I thought I'd walk you through four main regions, so the North Indian, South, West, and East, so you can see a little bit of what that cuisine looks like. So right here in front of you, you see this beautiful dish. It's called Paneer Masala, which is an Indian cheese in this rich, creamy sauce, which is fragrant with aromatics and usually served with naan or some type of roti or paratha. And so when you think about North Indian cuisine, think about the Mughal influence. So a lot of the spices, a lot of the dried fruits and nuts were added into this cuisine. It was rich. They used the tandoor oven, which is a clay oven, to bake their bread in. And also, if you think of tandoori chicken, which you may have had at an Indian restaurant, it's basically chicken that was marinated in a yogurt spiced mix, kind of like what Archana did in the kathi roll. That is something that's very common in the North Indian cuisine. And wheat is the predominant grain in the North. And when you look at this meal right here, this is a beautiful festive plate. And I think Archana had sent me this picture. This is one of her meals that she had presented. And so if you notice, this is a Northwestern meal. So you see the paratha, you also see a beautiful, colorful rice, and you see a dessert that has little pieces, the orange dessert with little pieces of cashews. There's a yogurt and it looks like beetroot dip, raita. And then there's another curry on the side. And you have the steamed rice cake that's called dhokla. That's more from the Western states. So this is a combination of North and Western ideologies in terms of spices. So now we go to actually the authentic Western Indian thali. Thali is the word used for the plate, the presentation of a meal in the North. It's typically served in a stainless steel plate with a few different containers or little bowls for different things. And there's bread that's usually paratha, roti, that's made at home, served with a few vegetable dishes, served with some beans. And you will usually see some fried, crunchy items like papads that's on the left there. And then there's a dessert in the middle. That's a milk-based dessert. It's called kheer. So this is an example of the Western plate. And when you think about the Western region, it includes Rajasthan, which has the desert. So a lot of the vegetables found there are very different. And then you have Goa and Maharashtra, which has the coastline. So if you were looking at that, you would find a lot more of seafood. This plate right here looks like more an Gujarati plate. And so it would be more vegetarian because that state has a lot of people who follow Hinduism and also a sect called Jainism, where they're very strict vegetarians. So this is usually a great place to find vegetarian food. And this year, pav bhaji, I would love for Archana to share a little bit because it's from her place. It's from Mumbai.
Yeah, so one of my favorite recipes, one of the recipes on the blog that people absolutely love, street food of India, similar to our street food of Maharashtra as it started, and now it's become street food of India. It is delicious. The bhaji, which is the curry, has all sorts of mixed vegetables in it. There's cauliflowers, onions, peppers, potatoes, carrots, green peas, and it's cooked and mashed to like a creamy consistency with lots of butter in it, which is a must in this recipe. And then the pav, which are those bread rolls on the side, are toasted with some butter again on a pan and then served hot. And you basically take a piece off the bread and dunk it into the curry. And it's one of the best foods you would ever eat.
Absolutely agree. And so even though I grew up in the South, pav bhaji was a very popular dish in my school cafeteria. And anytime we went anywhere, I think of it as a sloppy joe. It's an Indian vegetarian sloppy joe, and it's loaded with vegetables. So it's a great way to serve it. This is a display of an Eastern Indian plate. And if you look at this, this is gorgeous. So when you think of Eastern India, they use a lot of fish. Fish is very popular and rice is the predominant grain. So if you notice, there's a big mound of rice in the middle, and then there's that piece of fish, and they have a variety of curries. And another thing that Eastern Indian cuisine is known for, especially from the state of West Bengal, they're known for their sweets. They have a sweet tooth, a lot of dishes made with milk and milk products. So right here, these little balls, they're called rasagulla, and it's a steamed milk dessert that's soaked in sugar syrup. It's really delicious.
Soaked
And
in
in fact,
sugar syrup, and sometimes they'll have the same dessert in like a creamy milk-based
exactly. It's called
I don't know what
rasmalai, right?
rasmalai, which is so delicious. I think that's more common here in the restaurants, and it's one of my favorite
Nice.
milk-based desserts.
Yes. And so moving to the South. So in South India, the traditional meal is actually served on a banana leaf. So when you walk into someone's home or at a restaurant, if you're having an authentic South Indian meal, it's served on a banana leaf, you clean it, and then they start with rice. Rice is the predominant grain, and it's a lot of it is vegetarian. So the thing that you see on top of the white rice, that's called sambar. It's a vegetable stew made from lentils with lots of vegetables. There are at least 2, 3 vegetable dishes there. And you see this crunchy white kind of fried thing that's called an appalam, which is similar to papad, but this is a South Indian version. And so South Indian food is known for its vegetarian options. And also depending on which part of the southern states you're from, if you're from Andhra Pradesh, you might have a lot more heat, and they are known for their Mughal influence. So you might have more of the biryani, which is a rice, chicken, spicy dish. If you got southern food from Kerala, it's going to have a lot more coconut oil, coconut milk. It's going to have fish as well. And I know one of our attendees, her childhood home was from Kerala, so I'm sure she has a lot more to say about Kerala. And this right here is one of my favorite street foods. It's called dosa. It's a South Indian dish. It's made from a batter that's fermented. It's rice and lentil that's fermented. And you make these crispy crepes. It's served with a variety of dips. There's a coconut chutney, there's sambar, which is a stew, and there's usually a potato, onion curry that you can either stuff your crepe with or have it on the side. This was taken at a local Indian restaurant here. And so if you've never had a chance to try dosa, I would highly recommend you try it next time you're at an Indian restaurant. It's fun. So let's talk about some traditional meals. So in India, it's just like here. Often there are 3 traditional meals. So there's a morning meal, lunch, mid-afternoon meal, and an evening meal. And in many parts of the country, there is a tea time or a snack or tiffin in the South, and that's very common. And that's mid-afternoon, and that's usually when you either have tea or coffee, depending on where you're from. And it's never food, drinks are never served by themselves. There's always some food around it, either some little snacks. The biggest meal often is the evening meal, and that's just because that's when the family is all together. Food is served on a plate, and usually you use your hands to eat your food. Food is to be savored. It's your right hand is the most common hand to use for food. If you have something like a roti or chapati, the bread, you would tear off a piece, use that to scoop the different dishes. You could use utensils, but often it's surprising how well you can eat just with your fingers. And there's something about Ayurveda where there's the belief that food just tastes better when you taste it from your fingers. Anything else you'd like to add there, Archana?
No, yeah, you're right. Like, if you guys love Indian food and you've been using spoons and forks, try just with your hands, and it's absolutely delicious.
It's fun.
Don't be afraid to lick your fingers.
Yes. And this right here, I just wanted to share with you this beautiful picture. So this right here, the stainless steel container is called a Tiffin Box. It's a lunch box. And this is traditionally how food used to be packed in the morning and sent to someone at work or to your school. And so each container has a different dish. So you would have rice, you would have your roti, which is your bread, you would have a curry or dal. And then I remember there used to be a little container my mom would pack in one of those. that would have the pickles and the chutney or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's fun when you open it up, you have all these different containers and you can share with your friends or if you're at work. So just a little insight to how food is served. Moving on to traditional accompaniments. So an Indian meal is never just one or two things. It's the main entree, but again, it's not served in courses. It's usually served family style. So you would have the bread, you would have the lentils, you would have maybe some kind of yogurt dish, but you definitely would have pickles and chutneys. And so here, right here, I'm just sharing a few examples. So again, depending on where you're from, the chutney would vary. So I know Archana mentioned the green chutney, it's often a cilantro mint chutney. In the South, you might find a peanut chutney, or you might find a tamarind chutney or a ginger chutney.
Yeah.
So it just depends where you're from. Raita is the term used for a yogurt-based dip. It's often with vegetables like cucumber or carrots or beets, but you can play around with it. Pudi is the South Indian word for powder, but it's usually a spiced powder. Often you would get a bowl of rice and then you would have ghee and you'd have a variety of powders. It could be either a chili-based powder, it could be a lentil-based powder, it could be a mint, dried mint and fenugreek powder. And you would literally mix your rice with ghee and those powders and make it a flavorful option. Kachumber is a word for a diced chopped vegetable salad. It doesn't have the yogurt. And papad is that what you may see at Indian restaurants called papadum or papad. It's a lentil-based flatbread that's either deep fried or roasted. And pickles. Now, when it comes to pickles, pickles in India are not just marinated in salt. They often have other ingredients. Archana, do you want to chime in to something about pickles?
Yeah, sure. So I love pickles. Like just the name pickles makes my mouth water. And it's something my mom and my grandma would have done in the summer months. So they'll buy like raw mangoes or limes, and then they make like big jars of pickles with spices, often like whole mustard, right? Like they grain it, like the grainy mustard, whatever it's called, from the seeds. Lots of oil that actually keeps them good for a longer time, the whole year pretty much. Lots of spices, and it's just like my mouth waters even when I talk about pickles. But if you guys haven't tried, now in Indian grocery stores there are so many brands that sell mixed pickles, mango pickles, lemon pickles, pickles. You guys have to pick up a jar or a bottle next time you're in Indian grocery stores and have it just a little bit. You only need a little spoonful as a side with your Indian meal, and it really completes the whole meal.
Absolutely agree. Many, many fond memories of summer, seeing my mom make those jars of pickles that last the whole year. And they're so good. And they're actually fairly easy to make. So I'm sure Archana maybe has a couple recipes on her website, on her blog, and you can look it up. Try it. So this year in the summer, we have a lemon tree. So I literally just picked the lemons, crushed them, a little bit, added some salt, some chili, mustard, oil, and it's so flavorful. Give it a try. Moving on to beverages. So Indians love their chai. So chai actually came from India. So if you go to a coffee shop here and get a chai latte, the origins were from India. Every home has their own version of making chai. So often masala chai is what you may think of as chai latte. It's usually black tea, milk, water, boiled with spices. So it could be cardamom, it could be nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, ginger, mint. You can play around with those spices, and it's usually sweetened, but it's not as sweet as you would find at a coffee shop here. Coffee is very popular in the South, where I grew up from. And the way the coffee is made is you would use a coffee filter. It's a stainless steel container. Each family has their own version of chicory and coffee that they roast and buy. And you would add a couple spoons of that coffee powder, add hot water, and let it percolate and drip down. And that is the concentrated, almost is like an espresso shot. You would use that in your mug and then add steamed milk to it and sugar. And that's usually served in the South. Coconut water is a very, very common beverage. Most cities, you would find carts of sellers selling coconut water. It is so thirst quenching, especially with the heat. Lassi is another popular beverage. It's made with yogurt And it can either be sweet or salty. And if you want to have fun, add some mango to it, and mango lassi is really fun. Starbuck is another beverage. It's just, it's kind of like lemonade, but sometimes it's spiced with Indian spices. So you may find some black salt in it or some cumin in it or pepper in it, which makes it
Ginger even. Yeah.
right. And one of my favorites is sugarcane juice. If you ever get a chance to try some fresh sugarcane juice, do it. It is so good. And it's sugarcane that's put through this juicer. And then in India, it's often served with ginger and lime, and it's so good. And of course, flavored milk, flavored with spices and nuts, is another popular beverage. Did I miss something, Archana?
No, you've got it all.
Which one is your favorite?
I love chai. I'm a chai person and I have 2 cups of chai every single day. I don't add sugar to it, but I do add fresh ginger. So it's black tea, fresh ginger, a little bit of milk, not too much, no sugar, and it's so good. It's my favorite part of the day when I'm having my cup of tea.
Love it. So I'm someone who loves both. I love my chai and I love my coffee. So I have both.
Awesome.
So let's talk about festivals. India has so many religions and so many festivals, and every festival, every celebration has a specific food routine connected to it. So as a child, I knew which holiday was coming up based on what I would see my mom prep the week before. So right now we are actually heading into the biggest Indian holiday called Diwali. So these little clay lamps you see in the picture are a symbol of Diwali. And Diwali is the festival of lights. It's where we're celebrating the victory of good over evil. And there's lots of traditional foods, sweets, and treats that come along with that. And I know Archana has been posting some gorgeous meals and recipes.
My favorite festival.
Yes, mine too. And so a couple other festivals I wanted to highlight are Navratri that we just passed, and Holi, which is the festival of colors. So again, different foods are associated with different holidays. So if you get a chance, try and explore some of those. So I'm not sure how we're doing on time, but I'm going to run through a few slides just to walk you through some of the common components of Indian food. There's usually some kind of starch. It could be roti or flatbread, rice, depending on where you're from. It could be basmati or white or even red rice. A lot of millets are used in Indian cooking, and you would find buckwheat and sorghum as well. Beans and lentils, it's amazing how many varieties there are. It's not just one or two. If you look at Archana and my pantries, you will find shelves full of different varieties of lentils and beans. And they're made in a different preparation every day, so it doesn't seem monotonous. Produce, big part of Indian culture and Indian food. I just wanted to highlight a few that are unique. So moringa, which is now becoming a superfood here, actually something that was used all the time in Indian food. It used to be called drumsticks in India, and the drumstick leaves, the moringa leaves, were crushed and used as a chutney or added in that dosa, the crepe. We had moringa trees in my childhood home. Fenugreek, that Archana had mentioned, the kasuri methi, that's been looked at for helping with blood sugar and helping with breast milk production if you're someone who's nursing a baby. Lots of scientific data why that's helpful. So if you get a chance, use fenugreek, either the seeds or the herbs. Mango is the national fruit of India. Hundreds of varieties of mangoes every summer. That would be something we would look forward to. It's nice to see that we can find some delicious mangoes here. Pomegranate is another one that's used in Indian cuisine. Also, jackfruit that I didn't put on this list is something that is from India, and it's just an amazing fruit if you've not tried it. Something else that's part of Indian cuisine is fermented foods. So yogurt, that's typically used. Every home makes their own yogurt often. Idli and dokla are both fermented battered. Idli is the steamed rice cakes, and dokla is the one that you saw on the northwestern plate. It's a steamed rice and lentil cake as well. Some common dairy foods that are used in India are milk is used every day, yogurt, buttermilk is used either as a beverage or as a soup, ghee, paneer, condensed milk, and these are some names of desserts in Indian cuisine. And that's a picture, a beautiful picture of palak paneer, which you may have had at an Indian restaurant. This is really what makes Indian food stand out, the spices. This is one of my spice boxes at home. This is the whole spices. And then I have another one with the powdered spices. So something that you could play around and try and fill your spice box with. This is the dietary guidelines for Indians in India. I'm going to skip over this and just add a few comments about what you could keep in mind if you were trying to incorporate more Indian foods. It's basically enjoying a variety of produce, getting more plant-based proteins in like beans and lentils, play around with the spices. They have a lot of health benefits as well as they make your food so much more flavorful. Enjoy more whole grains, so roti or chapati instead of naan. Enjoy healthier snack options like the kati roll instead of maybe a deep fried samosa. I'm not saying you can't have samosas, they're so good, but just enjoy them in moderation. So where can you find some of these Indian ingredients? Well, most major cities in America have a community called Little India. If you look it up, you will find it. Major cities do have them. They can be an adventure by itself. You can find all kinds of products and at a very reasonable price, especially the spices. Another option is online. You can find things on Amazon. You can order it from Pensy's. And of course, even now our regular stores, Trader Joe's, have so many options. I'm going to leave you with some resources that we pulled together. Hopefully you will find some of these interesting and helpful. And here's how you can reach Archana and me. We are both on Instagram. We both have websites and would love to stay in touch with all of you. So I hope you found this helpful and we're ready to take some questions.